Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. This week we continue with our learning on the mystery of marriage by Rabbi Itzhak Ginsburg. We're almost done with this book. We have a few classes left, and we were talking last week about the unknoble head, and that modesty really is when we become nothing, when we become very, like, it's not even small. It's when we realize that we're nothing without Hashem and that our whole identity is Him. And the paradox is that through the care they take to preserve modesty, the couple, even in their most intimate and self-exposing moments, each spouse connects to the other's deepest and most private realms of being and becomes able to perceive most sublime beauty of the other soul. So when we're full of ourselves, we're so full, we cannot see the other. We cannot tap into the other. But when we become nothing and we realize that that other person is really us and we are really them in a very, very spiritual sense, then we can tap to the deepest part of each other. So today, we're going to talk about the source of the blessing that modesty brings to our lives. And it says here that the fact that modesty is the quintessential means of expression of the unknowable head, as I remind you, it's talking about nothingness. It is illustrated by the story of the 10 blessings that Yitzhak gave Yaakov the first time he blessed him. And I'm going to read it to you. The blessing that he gave him that was really intended for his brother Esau, but as the story goes, he garbed himself in Esau's clothes and he made his father believe he was Esau. This is the blessing he received, and it says, "May God give you of the dew of heaven and the fats of the earth and an abundance of grain and wine. May people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be a master over your brother, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." This is the most famous, profound blessing of the whole Torah. And we're taught in Kabbalah and Hasidut that these blessings are the highest of the greatest of all the blessings of the patriarchs. And they are understood to be divine intermediate, linking the 10 sayings of creation to the 10 commandments of the Torah. So when Hashem created the world, He had 10 utterances that He said all at once. And then it's linked also to the 10 commandments of the Torah. And any intermediate must contain 2 dimensions, each of which connects to one of the entities it is intended to unite. So when you want to unite one thing with another, you need like an intermediary. You need something that will connect it. And in this way, the intermediate reflects the common source of the entities it connects. So it's like, it's a joint, it's working for both sides, which transcends both of them. In our case, Yitzhak's blessings reflects the common source in God's essence of His relatively immanent power inherent in creation and His relatively transcendental power manifest in the Torah. So Yitzhak was really the intermediary of the connection of this blessing and Yaakov. So the 7th of these 10 blessings, if we read it, it says to be master over your brother, Jacob and Esau, personify the good and the evil. So Jacob is the good and Esau is the bad, or the godly neshama and the animal neshama. And these are the 2 inclinations each one of us has inside of us. So the ability given the good inclination to subdue the innate evil inclination is the basis of free choice and Torah observance. So why am I saying this? Why is this here? Because really to choose modesty, to choose to live in a modest way, is it comes from the Yetzer HaTov. It comes from the good inclination. And when we are lured in this world to live in a way that is not modest, which is what it sells us everywhere you go, and you think this becomes the normal way to live, then we are not really living up to our true Jewish values. So these blessings are the intermediary between the 10 sayings of creation and the 10 commandments. And an intermediary can serve as such only because its source is higher than either of the entities it bridges. So in here it says that Yitzhak's blessing reflects the common source in God's essence of his relatively immanent power inherent in creation and his relatively transcendent power manifest in the Torah. So we see both his power in the creation of the world and his transcendental power in the Torah. So the Baal Shem Tov says the 10 sayings of creation reflect the levels of the worlds. The 10 commandments reflect the level of divinity. So the 10 sayings, the 10 utterances really are part of the material world. The 10 commandments are part of divinity. They are really holy. They come from a higher source. And these blessings reflect the levels of the souls. So the divine souls of the Jewish people, which links divinity with worlds. So the blessing, the commandment is the intermediary between the souls and the worlds. So Isaac gave these blessings to Jacob, thinking that he was Esau in the words of the Torah. It says, and Isaac did not recognize Jacob, for his hands were hairy like the hands of Esau, and he blessed him. So he was really tricked. He thought he was giving the blessing to Esau, but something really inner in himself, he knew he was giving it to Jacob. He thought that Esau had the potential to be even greater than Jacob. If he really desired to be greater, he could have been greater with this blessing. But in the case of Esau, he didn't want to be great. He wanted to be a low life. That's how he wanted to live his life. He never wanted to be like his father, his grandfather, and his brother. His intention was to gain control of the material world and live a complete materialistic, animalistic, instinctive existence. So Rebecca, his mother Rivka, she knew that the power embodied in these blessings was too sublime to be received directly. Only by elevating Jacob to the level of the unknowable head, by negating his awareness of himself as himself, would be able to receive them. So what she did was that she dressed him in the clothes of Esau, and she put in his hands hair from a sheep or an animal, and she made him feel like he was Esau. She unclothed him of Jacob. That's what she did. She got rid of Jacob so he could receive the blessing. He became a nothing. So she therefore dressed Jacob in Esau's clothes, for nothing can be as counseling as clothing oneself is one's opposite. By donning Esau's physical clothes, Jacob was to a certain extent garbing himself in Esau's personality as well. And we talked about this before. We said, like, when we dress in a certain way, we feel in a certain way. If we're dressed all sexy, pumped up, we're gonna act sexy and pumped up. If we dress classy, elegant, and fashionable, but classy, we're gonna feel classy and we're gonna be acting classy. So he was able to act as Esau because he was dressed as Esau, and this identity was the one that allowed him to fool Yitzhak. And I'm Esau, your firstborn. That's how he said. And from this we see that by hiding one's true identity in existential modesty, one becomes worthy to receive the greatest of blessings. Those that derive from the unknowable head, they abode, so to speak, of God's essence, and indeed it is the innate modesty of the souls of Israel that allows them to join, as in marriage, the relatively female level of worlds to the relatively male level of divinity. So the woman is connected to the material world, to the level of the world, and the husband is connected to the world of divinity. The clothing is the intermediary that connects these two worlds. And so the way we dress really says a lot. It makes us feel in a certain way. It makes us talk in a certain way. It makes us act in a certain way. And that's why It's the modesty, even though every Jew has it inwardly, we all are modest people inside. In reality, the outgarb helps us bring out that modesty that we have inside, because when we're garbed in the wrong way, then we are not acting true to who we are. And that's the whole idea of modesty, is that you are transparent to who you are, that you become a vessel of holiness in this world, and that people see you as such, and not only in the way you dress, but in the way you think, the way you talk, and the way you act. So I wish you a beautiful week, a healthy week, and remember, live a little higher. Thank you.